as women, we start to lose strength 35. When we're 35 years old, we slowly start to lose strength. And staying strong, again, is essential for getting up and off the ground. And you know, think about this too, getting in and out of a car. You know, simple things like maintaining strength. And you can even start with your body weight. It's you know, start, and we call this habit stacking. So while your coffee is brewing in the morning, start doing some squats. Or you do them during a TV commercial, or, you know, while your dinner's in the oven. Maybe even like some push-ups, and you could do push-ups against the wall. It really doesn't have to be difficult. And maybe you start doing that, you know, for 10 minutes, a couple of times a week, and start working up to maybe 10 minutes twice a day. I call them movement minutes.
If you don't know me yet, I'm Robin Thomas, founder of Living Well Connections, a healthy living community that supports, educates, and empowers us all to make healthy decisions toward a more balanced and fulfilling life. I have a background in medical research, and I love exploring the interplay of our physical, mental, and spiritual selves.
Dawn Engel is an integrative nutrition health coach, helping busy women over 40 create simple, sustainable habits that boost energy and well-being. With decades of wellness study and experience teaching yoga, she guides women to prioritize self-care over sick care so they can age vibrantly and feel their best. Today we're getting started. This is great. I'm so happy to have you here.
I am so excited to be here.
We're going to have a great conversation. Whenever we talked in the past, it's like we're very aligned.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that you can really help people quite a bit, and do it in a way that's not only comfortable but sustaining.
Yes. Sustainable, works with their lifestyle. You know, we're all different. We have all, you know, different responsibilities, different things we have to accomplish in our day, whether we want to or not. So, yeah.
That's so true. And my audience here at Over 40 and Fabulous are busy people.
Yes. They
are often caregivers for someone else, whether it's a spouse or a child or a grandchild. And often they put themselves you know, they put themselves aside.
Yes.
They'll get to it. Okay, I've got to do this, and this for other people, or for if they're still working for their work, if they have a business for their business, all these things they need to do for others, and they put themselves at the end.
Yes.
And we're about to change that.
Yes. Especially women. That's what we do.
Especially women, not always, but especially women. You're right. You're right. So tell me very briefly about how you got to this point that you're teaching people to really enhance, to incorporate self-care, because it sounds like maybe there was a point you needed to do that.
Absolutely. So I am a woman in my mid-50s, and I've seen and experienced a lot of life. So I've been single, I've been divorced, I have been remarried, I have been a wannabe mom suffering through infertility treatments. I've been a single mom, I'm a stepmom, an empty nester now. And I've also been through, you know, a phase of life where I cared for my elderly grandparents, you know, then ultimately lost them. So lost people that I've loved deeply. And a vast majority of that I was doing while I held a corporate career. So for 30 years, I was doing the corporate America thing, as a lot of us do, and having to deal with all of those things while working a full-time job. So I'm no stranger to stress, as well as, you know, the ups and downs of life. And honestly, I say, as luck would have it, I was laid off from that job 3 years ago and had the opportunity to really step back and say, what is it that I want to do with the rest of my life? And it was two things. Number one, help other people. and to follow my passion with health and wellness. So I've been someone who's always been interested in health and wellness. I have, to the best of my ability, again, during all those ups and downs, taken care of myself. Back in 2017, I got my yoga certification. So I now teach yoga to chair yoga at our local senior center. So that brings me a lot of joy. And so really, helping people, especially helping women, because I've been there. I've been in whatever that stage of life is that they're going through, and know how overwhelming it can be, and know how stress can adversely affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually.
Wow. Yes. You've been there. You've been there. You've done it. You've done the work. You've found the joy. I don't want to say it's all work. You found the joy of doing this.
Yes. Yeah. And really, like we said earlier, women really have to take some time to take care of themselves. We want to age vibrantly. And what do I mean by that, right? I want to have sustained energy. I want to be able to move in the ways that I want to move. So that's getting up and off the ground. That's playing with my pets, my kids, my grandkids. For me, it's all of those things, but it's also traveling. If you've ever traveled overseas, sometimes it feels like
you're very heavy things. You're carrying heavy things. You're walking the a lot of the world outside of the United States
is walking.
Walks.
Yes. And if you've
everywhere.
Ever been in an airport anywhere, even in the US, there's a lot of walking, carrying bags.
Yeah.
So I think, women, and I think a lot of times when you're stuck in that stress cycle, when you're stuck in the everyday whirlwind, you don't stop to think about how good you could feel if you took just a little bit of time every day to start taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
We don't believe it's possible. And it is. I mean, I feel better now. I mean, as we're recording this, I'm not ashamed to say I'm 57 and a half years old. And I feel great. I mean, I feel like I'm 35. And my hope, my dream, I would love for, people just to be able to wake up every day and feel good mentally, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually.
Oh, I can identify with that so much. I've said my age on this podcast before. I'm 68.
Good for you.
And I'm still very active. Yes, I'm still very active. And my son, my oldest son, we took him hiking one time, and he's like, "Whoa!" He said, "You do not act like you're old at all."
You're like, "Well, I'm not. That's why."
I don't feel it. But it takes. But what I also like is the habits you've developed. It's not overwhelming. It really isn't overwhelming, but it's something you have to be consistent to do. The getting up off the floor. I purposely took out a love seat out of my office, and I have a yoga mat and a quilt over the yoga mat just to make it prettier, and also just to give a little bit more padding. And then when I want to get away from the desk and stretch out a little bit, I have pillows on the floor, and I just stretch out on the floor. That makes me have to get down and up a lot more than I ordinarily would be. It's easy. I just set a place for that.
And ironically, I do too. My yoga mat's on the floor right behind me as well.
See, this is what happens. We are very much aligned. Tell me about what you find essential for staying strong and healthy as we age. I know there's lots of little things that can be, but what is something that you think is probably one of the most essential things?
So physical strength, believe it or not, we start to lose, as women, we start to lose strength 35, we're 35 years old, we slowly start to lose strength. And staying strong, again, is essential for getting up and off the ground. And think about this too, getting in and out of a car.
Yeah.
Simple things like that, on and off the toilet. It sounds silly, but we want to be able to do that ourselves.
Right. We've both been caregivers of quite elderly people. And yes, you want to be able to get up and off the toilet.
Yes. So maintaining strength. And you can even start with your body weight. It's start, and we call this habit stacking. So while your coffee is brewing in the morning, start doing some squats. Or you do them during a TV commercial, or, while your dinner's in the oven. Maybe even like some push-ups, and you could do push-ups against the wall. It really doesn't have to be difficult. And maybe you start doing that, for 10 minutes, a couple of times a week, and start working up to maybe 10 minutes twice a day. I call them movement minutes. So in the past, and I know studies change all the time about exercise and diet and its effects on the body, but there was a point in time where it was, 30 minutes of a HIIT exercise or HIIT workout, minimum 3 times a week, or don't bother. And studies are showing that that is no longer true. So some movement,
or it was never true, but they, yes,
well,
exactly.
Well, it's all marketing.
Exactly.
Right? It's all marketing. It's the gyms, it's the, fitness programs that are marketing to you and telling you that. But, these 10, even if you're strapped for time, 5-minute movement minutes, again, is what I call them, throughout your day. The best one for me is getting out in sunlight first thing in the morning. Within an hour of waking, get out, walk, stretch. Stretching is very underrated, by the way. We don't stretch enough. I consider that movement. So getting out.
I've had chiropractors tell me the most important thing is in the moving is to get up and stretch.
Yes.
Or stretch. Of course, they're looking at our spine, but
yes.
It is still very important, not only for physical strength and flexibility, but for mental wellness.
Absolutely. And so folks, I've been working out since I'm 16, and I really do it for my mental health more so than my physical health. Now I'm reaping the benefits physically, absolutely, but when I don't work out for a couple of days, I feel it mentally, and I feel it physically too. I mean, the aches and pains come back when I'm not moving. Right. So it's just, again, it's very simple, quick, easy things. If you can do nothing else, walk.
Right.
Walk in the morning. If you can't walk in the morning, walk after dinner. Dinner's generally the largest meal of the day. Walking after dinner, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Again, it doesn't take a lot, but it helps with digestion, helps your body's insulin response to the food. It's just so metabolically beneficial, and it's such a simple thing to do. It's free, it's easy.
You really don't need, maybe you need a comfortable pair of shoes.
Yes.
And you don't need to get the real expensive shoes. You can just get a comfortable pair.
Right. A comfortable pair of shoes, and start 1 or 2 days a week and work up to 3, work up to 4. It's not doing a lot all at once. It's little bits throughout your week, and then increase as you start to feel stronger. You're probably going to start to feel the endorphins from it, right? So that's motivating, and you to continue doing it. And notice how you feel. Notice how you feel physically, emotionally, mentally after you move.
Oh, it makes such a difference. And I love the early morning walks, especially now that we're entering summer.
Especially, yes, here.
But still, and of course, the early morning walks are earlier now.
Yes.
But it is so wonderful. That's become a habit. My husband retired oh gosh, in the end of 2024. And he and I, that's what we do in the morning, is get up and go out and take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done.
Yes.
We have to think about, we'll walk again. We walk in lots of other ways, because we also love to hike, and we also love to bird watch, and, all kinds of things we love to do.
Yeah.
But that, intentional walk at a pretty good rate in the morning.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice because it's calm, it's quiet in the morning. So it's, you can start the day off peacefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can make that happen. And that's why, if you have to get up before the kids an extra 15 minutes, have your clothes ready.
Yeah.
Get dressed, put the shoes on, go out for 10 minutes. It's just a great way to start off the day on a positive note.
It's wonderful. Well, wow. And so throughout this whole podcast, you've been talking about making habits, doing habits. Tell me why that's so important to make habits.
Habits just really make it automatic for you. So I don't have to really think about walking after dinner. It's just something that becomes innate, right? It just becomes part of your automatic. A lot of times we're on autopilot, right? I think I talked about this earlier, just on this, autopilot of chaos, right? Slip in some healthy habit into, your autopilot.
Right.
And it just becomes automatic. It's like anything else. I mean, yes, it takes intention. It takes focused energy to slip it in there. But once you do, it just is a part of your day. And it's almost like you don't even notice it, like brushing our teeth, right?
I was thinking, you read my mind, because I'm thinking nobody thinks about when they wake up. I mean, of course, you get up and go pee.
Yes.
And brush your teeth. That's like usually the very first thing you're consciously doing.
Yes. And then put on your walking shoes and go take a walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just part of a routine, and then you could slip those other habits in there as well. And it's a process, right, to develop these habits. And everyone has habits that work best for them with their schedule. I think another thing too to try to be aware of is be flexible with that habit. So if for whatever reason you don't get the morning walk in, maybe you get it in after lunch,
right,
or after dinner, or while you're waiting for your child at their sporting event.
Right.
Walk around the parking lot.
Walk while. I know years ago when my boys were in soccer, it's like walk around the field.
Right.
Why just sit and watch them? I can still watch them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you grab another parent, then you have an accountability partner, right?
And camaraderie.
Yes.
I mean, that really helps. This is great. Yeah. Well, do you have any other wisdom tips right now?
Yeah. So self-care, right? It's that 2-letter word that, again, we often don't find time for as women. And self-care, again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to take a long time. I say 10 minutes because I feel like 10 minutes is just a doable amount of time. So it could be, right, when we're in this, I guess, chronic stress, it raises our cortisol. We, our nervous system is dysregulated and we're not our best selves. So being in chronic stress, not taking care of ourselves, not focusing on self-care, at least, 10 minutes several times a week. We don't eat right. We don't sleep well. We're too tired for movement.
Right.
But taking time, again, in the morning. So, that 10-minute movement is self-care, but so is just sitting outside with your cup of tea or coffee. So is journaling for 5 or 10 minutes. So is maybe listening to calming music in a dark room for 5 or 10 minutes before you go to bed. Maybe it's, a skincare routine that takes 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe it's, polishing your nails, cutting your nails.
I think that it's so individual.
It is.
The person, it's like not saying any of these is right or wrong. I mean, they're all right, because it's something that takes care of yourself, that you're paying attention to yourself and you're being kind to yourself. I have a unique one. Well, maybe not unique. No, I don't think it is, because I love to weed.
Do too. There's so much
I love it. It's like a meditative. It's a meditative process, and at the end, so many things in our lives is still messy at the end. But if you're weeding, that little patch that you did weed is nice and new again, nice and bright again.
Yes, it's beautiful.
So you get that little, serotonin lift.
Yes, but also, right, there's physical benefits to that, right? You're using
cortisol goes down.
Yes, you're using muscles, you're getting out in the sunshine. I mean, protect yourself with some sunscreen and a hat, but your hands are in the soil, right? Which is very good for our gut microbiome. It's very good grounding. That's the other thing, grounding, being in, with your bare hands or your bare feet in the soil or in the grass. It's very grounding. It's very calming to the nervous system. So, not only are you beautifying your, your little space in this world, but it has health benefits as well.
Yeah. And I do it in a squatting position.
Yes.
So I'm getting up, getting up and down from a squatting position.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, absolutely self-care. Breath work, I think, is something that's very underrated as well. And, one of my biggest tips is, if things are that crazy, like if you are in the kids are screaming, the phone is ringing, you're getting text, maybe you're at work. My biggest tip, escape to the restroom. 9 times out of 10, no one's following you in there. They think you're in there for an entirely different reason, and do some breath work. So, maybe close your eyes. If you can, shut off the light. And, what we call in the yogic industry, a box breath.
Box breathing. Yes.
Yes.
So you're box breathing to troops.
It really is. I mean, again, very calming to the nervous system. Helps with, the dysregulation of our nervous system. And so for those who don't know what that is, you're just inhaling for a count of 4, you're holding for a count of 4, you're exhaling for a count of 4, and then you're holding for a count of 4. And you repeat that, 3 or 4 times. And it doesn't really take that long. And again, you're in your hiding place, your secret hiding place.
I have heard reports of people, like professors, going and hiding in the bathroom after, so many people in academia are actually introverts.
Yes.
Which doesn't mean they don't like people. They love people and they love teaching. But after being intense, teaching, they need to have that break.
Yes.
And I do too. Yeah, I understand it. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful. I know my audience would be interested in getting to know you a little even more, and getting to learn more about how you could possibly help them with a strategy session. So tell me today, and you're offering us a nice strategy. No, no strings attached.
No, absolutely not. 30 minutes, one-on-one, over Zoom. You come to me with a top health concern or a goal that you have. So think about that ahead of time, and then we'll have a conversation about it. And you will leave after 30 minutes with 3 tips that you will work on together, right? Tailored to your needs and your schedule. So 3 tips that you think you can work on in the next couple of weeks towards that goal.
That's wonderful.
So yeah,
That's
I'd
very generous.
love to speak to anyone who's interested or wants to know more, or even if you just have questions, about anything we talked about today, or, where to start. I think the hardest part is starting, because
Yes.
there's so much information out there. And that's what a lot of my clients come to me with. They're like, I want to work on X, Y, and Z, but I really don't know where to start because, I read one thing that tells me to drink this amount of water, another thing that tells me to eat this amount of protein. And, do I have to do it all? And when do I do it? And how do I do it? And so, that's really where, working with me, or even speaking with me for those 30 minutes can, help hopefully set you off like in the right direction.
You're so right that getting started is the hardest bit. And what people need to realize is you could get started small.
Yes.
And then grow from there. You don't have to start and jump in with 2 feet. Some people like that. There's a small percentage of people I've worked with who like, throw everything at me. And I'm like, really? But really, I think the best way that makes it sustainable.
Absolutely.
You can go into a boot camp and you can just, do the burpees and do the jumps and all the things you need to do for that. And be on a super specialized diet. You can do all that thing for a couple of weeks, maybe, or maybe a month, maybe, probably not.
Well, you're right. If you're starting from ground zero, then you might be able to do it once. I've seen that a lot too.
I've seen people. They usually have a huge why.
Yes. Yeah.
To do that if they do it all at once. And so we have to work with what the individual wants too.
Yes. Start, and that's where I meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And like you said, you start small, work up over time. That's where it's sustainable. If you've never moved, worked out, telling you to go do a 30-minute HIIT class is going to do more harm than good, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be sore and you're going to say, I hate this, and you're never going to do it again. So start small, and that's where you're going to see the benefits. That's where you're going to see the gains, or the losses. If you're somebody who, wants to get in better shape, lose a couple of pounds, you have to start small and have it be sustainable for it to work.
Right. That's the way it works. And one of the things I always offer at the end of these podcasts is a PDF, a free PDF about developing habits. And it is not saying what habits you should do first. I don't sit there and say you should start drinking more water or you should be doing that. I don't do that. It's more of how can you do this? How can you make it into a habit? You just mentioned habit stacking is one way. Something that you're already in a habit of, add this other habit to it. Like the brushing of the teeth, you can add I do instead of squats while I'm brushing teeth, I do toe lifts or heel lifts. Yeah.
Calf raises, heel lifts. Yeah. You can do any of those things.
Anything like that. So I have some ideas in this PDF, which is easy.
Great.
So get on a call with Dawn and sign up for the PDF. And we'd love to have you come back to another Over 40 and Fabulous podcast.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much. This was great. I feel like we could talk forever.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining me at my Over 40 and Fabulous podcast. If this podcast has been helpful for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with those in your life who need to hear this empowering message. And don't forget to download my free gift, 5 Ways to Get Started with Healthy Habits Without Getting Overwhelmed. This free guide leads you through 5 small steps that will allow you to ease into healthy habits until they become a natural part of your life. It's wonderful if you're just not quite sure how to get started. To get this helpful guide, go to robinthomas.biz/community support, and I will put it in the show notes too. Drop in your email and it will arrive straight to your inbox. Bye for now, and I'll see you next episode.